kind enough to put their hands up, please bring them down. But remember, I'll be monitoring the chat box for any questions. And if you'd like to ask a question directly to Gbenga, please put your hands up in the chat box and we'll go from there. So with the introductions, with the etiquette sorted, Gbenga, I'm so happy that you're here for this session. Could you give me, if that's all right, in a brief synopsis of what motivated you to become a filmmaker?
Thank you, Justin. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, where I grew up with my father, who actually started out as an apprentice in carpentry, and that job and went on to start his own business. And he had so many businesses, and one of the business that he had was actually a film and TV production company. And I could remember when I was about, I think, 11 years old, a film was being shot in my house at the time. And one of the child actors that was supposed to be on set to act in a role did not turn up. And, I was volunteered by somebody just to, stand in for this child. And I suppose at the time, without really knowing it, a seed was sown in me. But at the time, in Nigeria, most parents didn't really want their kids to be actors or to do creative courses. Because if you're not a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, you're deemed to be almost like, a failure in a way. So I didn't really get a chance to go into the creative field while I was in Nigeria, because when I was 14, my mother actually called me, and she'd just lost her own father at the time to cancer, with a complication of arising from the epileptic medical facilities in Nigeria. So she advised me to study sciences and study medicine, which I did. And as you may guess, I actually failed woefully. Fast forward to 2004, I moved to the United Kingdom, and having lived with my father, who was a serial entrepreneur, I'd learned about starting businesses and just getting on with it. And that sort of set me up for what I came to do, which was I had to learn, or I had to learn to something which I didn't really know. But thankfully, in the United Kingdom, you had libraries, and the system actually worked, as opposed to Nigeria. So started going to the libraries and found books and filmmaking, and I, the interest was sort of rekindled at the time, and that was how I didn't go straight into filmmaking. I started in photography, and with the help of some mentors around me, I was able to buy my first camera in 2005. It was a Fujifilm S5500, and just started taking pictures of Nigerian events in Manchester, and just learning so much about, being creative and all that. And in 2010, I attended my first Manchester Philharmonic event, which was a film event that started in Canada. And the idea was that people who wanted to get into the creative field would come together and just collaborate amongst each other. So it was just like a guerrilla style filmmaking. And we had people coming from all over Europe to Manchester. And in 2011, I started the Manchester Film Jam, which sought to bring filmmakers and actors, directors together in Manchester to collaborate on film events. However, in 2011, I didn't have enough experience to be able to run that organization. So in 2012, I went back to university where I studied broadcast TV. and also in 2016 went back to do my master's in TV documentary. And during that time, I honed my skills in filmmaking, and luckily for me, I was nominated for 3 Royal TV Society nominations for different films that I'd made. And however, the film, you know, as you may know, if you're okay, can I continue?
Just
So,
give me one moment. Sorry, Gbenga. So as I said at the beginning of this, please can you keep your mics on mute? Sorry about that, Gbenga. Please continue.
it's okay. So in the UK, if you know, everyone might not be aware, it's the creative industry is very competitive, and in a way, it's quite cliquey. And um, I've been on several sets from British TV sets because I actually enrolled as a background actor because it was quite difficult getting into production teams because it's so much most of the time about who you know. It's an industry that has been around for quite a while, so it's who knows who, bringing people in, and there are not so many systems in place to bring in people from diverse communities. So it was quite, even though I did so well in my degree courses, it was very difficult to actually get in. I had an opportunity to work with a production company in 2017, but things didn't quite go as, you know, I wanted at the time. And I've just kept doing my own films and, you know, telling stories. Most of the stories that I do tell are stories that you wouldn't see on mainstream TV. And early this year, well, it was, so you can imagine it was quite a struggle to actually make a living as a filmmaker. So I had to think of other ways of, you know, of making a living, and started in another course in project management, Prince 2. And thankfully this year I got a job with the civil service, and I've been working there for the past 3 months, and I really feel supported working there. So when I saw these Black History Month events, which you and your team posted, Justin, I was really fascinated by it, and I took it as an opportunity to share my skills and talents and just share my story with other people.
You did bring it here.
Thank you, Gbenga. So you've given us quite a lot, and during some of this session, I'd like to break down some of those points. The points that you mentioned with regards to about mentoring, points about the actual industry that isn't really as friendly to Bain people as we would expect. The work that you did and determination through studying, doing your masters, I think all of those points are really important. And then hopefully, if we get a chance, it'd be really interesting to bring it back to, as you mentioned, with regards to your family and how, for example, your father was an entrepreneur, but actually, you know, that sort of, I would say that sort of pressure from our parents to do good, to succeed, and almost to give you a career that you may even not want, but as far as they're concerned, that they see it, that this is going to push you or steer you in the right direction. So hopefully we'll be able to touch on a number of those points. But for the time being, one of the things I'd really like to do is just give the audience an opportunity to see your short film that got me interested in speaking to you, and also as well what I felt, if you're okay, to share with the rest.
Okay, yes, please.
Excellent. So if that's okay then, Gbenga, if you can keep your mic on mute, I'm just going to share my screen and then I will play. So as mentioned to the audience, this is a piece that Gbenga created called Invisible Black, and I'd like to play that for you all first, and then if that's okay, also as well, bring you into the session, because I wouldn't want this just to be me speaking directly to Gbenga. So Let me play it for you first, have time to think about it, and then if you're interested in raising a question to Gbenga, please put your hand up in the chat, or please, of course, drop your question in the chat box if you've got access to it, and I will read it out to him.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Irish.
Yeah.
A couple of 100 years, if you like.
Mm.
And I only found out that by accident.
Often, when we talk about Black British history, it's almost always referenced alongside slavery. However, significant parts of the Black British historical narrative have been shrouded in mystery for far too long. This manifests not least in our perception of Africans for what it means, but also in our willingness to explore white Britain's own.
Justin, I think the sound's actually gone now, so you might need to check it out. Probably because you muted your sound.
Try that one again. Let's start from the beginning. Can you hear that now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it now.
Excellent. Okay.
There's a little bit of Irish.
Yeah.
But that's in the past couple of 100 years, if you want to buy it.
Mm.
And I only found out that by accident.
Often, when we talk about Black British history, it's almost always referenced alongside slavery. However, significant parts of the Black British historical narrative have been shrouded in mystery for far too long. This manifests not least in our perception of Africanness, or what it means to be Black and British, but also in our willingness to explore white Britain's own African origin. Most white British people today would not doubt a Germanic or indeed an Anglo-Saxon heritage. Why would they? However, confronted with the possibility of an African heritage may be a step too far for far too many white people.
So why is white Britain mortified by its perceived African heritage? After all, evolutionary theorists submit that all human life began in Africa.
Recent findings show that Black people have lived in Britain for many centuries. Scientists confirmed that a skeleton found in Beachy Head, East Sussex in 1953 was that of a black African woman who lived in Britain more than 1700 years ago. Shocking as it may be, this goes to prove that black presence in Britain predates slavery by many centuries. I'm here in Manchester's St Anne's Square, and to many, it's just an ordinary English town square.
Between 1845 and 1846, number 22, which today houses some well-known brands, was the abode of a very important African-American figure.
It was home to abolitionist Frederick Douglass. From there, the young Douglass wrote several letters fighting his cause, which was to put an end to the barbaric trade in human beings. Today, aside from his letters, which are publicly available on the World Wide Web, you wouldn't know that such an important figure traversed this place. There are no monuments, no plaques, no statues to commemorate what he did here.
Like Douglas, 20,000 black people were already living and working in London by 1764. Most worked as servants, and although slavery wasn't legal on British soil, those black Georgians, for the most part, lived in grave fear of racism.
Fortunately, because of the absence of anti-miscegenation laws, which prohibits marriage between white and black people as it was in America, many black Georgian men decided to shed their black skin by assimilating into society by marrying local white women. This angered most whites at the time. However, it went unhindered till this day.
Granddad was James Thomas. He also named his own child James Thomas. He came from Ishu, Calabar, Nigeria. He was born there on the 17th of August, 1897. He then travelled from Nigeria on steamships as a stoker, keeping the ship's fuel burning as people travelled. I feel like I'd like to visit Nigeria and try and find a bit more about the family history, to be honest. Yeah, people should have answers to the heritage, and they should be trying to search for where they came from.
As a result of the intermarriage between black and white people, it is estimated that there are between 2 to 3 million white descendants of black Georgians living in Britain today.
2 to 3 million is a huge number of people, many of whom have no idea of their ancestral connections to Africa because of their lack of awareness and education about the black Georgians and of those who came before them. A lack of awareness of the contributions they made to Britain, but more importantly, their positions as fathers and mothers to millions of white British people. With the renewal of racism and xenophobia following the Brexit vote, perhaps it's time to reawaken a nation that's gradually seeping into despair around its identity and connections beyond the shores of Britain. Connections to Africa that go beyond the colour of skin. Connections deeply embedded within its DNA.
So the reason why I'm doing the dramatic pause, because I'm hoping that what Gbenga created touched, part of your soul. When I watched this, first of all, I was taken aback, not because of some of the points, but because of how well it was filmed, and in a very short space of time, how many different layers of information was all connected. Gbenga, for me personally, before I go to anyone else, I'm hoping that everyone else could hear it, but I'll ask you one question first, and then happy to go out to the rest of the audience. What inspired you to make that short film, Invisible Black?
Thanks, Justin, again. So Invisible Black was made while I was doing my master's at Salford University. And prior to that, I'd done other films exploring the origins of, Black people here in Britain, and some of the historical backgrounds to how my country, Nigeria, came about, and just the history. I'm quite interested in history of people, and not just Nigerians, of different people as well. So I like to talk to people, and I think at the time, David Olusoga was he made another film which was exploring slavery and colonialism, and I think he actually inspired me because I do follow some of the things that he did a lot. So that inspired me to sort of start delving into some of the issues, that have been experienced by mainly people of color here in the United Kingdom. And, I was intrigued to find out that, Black history is not just the history of people who look like me, brown and Black people, but it's actually also about the history of so many, white people who do not really know, because I've got mixed heritage son who, he's considerably lighter than me. And if in the next generation he marries a white person, within 2 generations, every trait of them having a Black progenitor would disappear. So, and I just felt like it was a disservice to a lot of white people not knowing, 2 to 3 million people. When I found that out, I was quite shocked, because, I can just imagine, I can't remember his name, the EDF guy, some fascist group guy, not really knowing that his great-great-grandfather could have been from, not just Nigeria, but could be from India, could be from Vietnam, but just because they've got white skin. So I felt like I had a duty to tell this story and let people know that Black history, it's not just the history of people who are Black, but it's all our histories, because we're all connected. Everyone's from Africa. And yeah, I hope I was able to achieve that with this film.
So Gbenga, thank you very much for that. I mean, there's a couple of points. As I said, for me, can you just do me a favor? Just mute your mic for a minute, because I'm hearing feedback. Thank you. So for me, this was one of the things that I wanted, and one of the reasons why I had to share this film with all of you. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch it. And of course, we will share the link in case some of you didn't hear it properly. I know that there are a number of people on the phone, so of course may have not been able to see it. So I would share the link in the chat. But the reason why I wanted to share it is because, very much as Gbenga mentioned, like, Black history is everyone's history. I can make certain jokes with regards to, if you ever go on ancestry.com, you could be shocked in what you find. For me, it's very much about that story. And this is why within the Fame Network, for a majority of my time as a co-chair, I've really tried to be as inclusive as possible with anyone that I speak to, because you just don't know what that person's history is, who they're going out with, who they may be, their parent is. And I think for me that there is a constant fight against racism, like all of the other isms, you know, sexism, fascism, but sometimes also as well, we have to help some people who may not be aware of their history and their past. And part of that is, as I said, is through being inclusive and being able to share information. So I see a couple of hands in the chat. Gbenga, if that's all right, I'm going to ask them to come online if they feel comfortable, ask you a question, and then we'll go from there. So Gbenga, if that's all right, I'm going to come on mute. No, I'm going to come off camera and I'm going to ask the first person to raise their hand up. Let me look at the list. Okay, so Caroline, I hope you're well. I'm going to ask you to ask Gbenga your question.
Yeah, thanks so much. Just loved that film. My great grandmother was black, and we discovered that she committed suicide back in the late 1800s, 3 months after giving birth to my granddad. I've got a picture of her, and we lay flowers on her grave regularly. And it just, you know, just reduced me to tears, and just loving it so much, and just want to get it out there about the connectivity that people don't know, and people make judgments. And I've had people say to me, "You don't look black," and I'm thinking, you don't know how things are on the inside. You know, you just don't know. I still have the hair, I still have the curves, my dad even more so. And when he was a child, he looked full on African, you know, his hair, his looks, but just fair skinned, white to all people from the outside. So I just want to thank you so much for making this film, and want to ask, are you going to be producing more? Are you going to be building bigger stories? Because I could sit in the cinema and watch what you've done there, the technique, the cinematography. I'm just loving it. You know, I'm sure it would sell big time, and want to see more of you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Yes, it's something that I would absolutely love to create more of, I'm striving to do that. However, it's been a journey for me, and creating films, it does take time. And like I said, being a creative is very challenging. You know, being able to look after a family and make films and earn a living from it. So hopefully, you know, working on some ideas, and hopefully it will pay off soon. And I do really appreciate you telling your story about your great grandmother. I think it's a beautiful story, and I think it's a story that a lot of people need to hear as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Caroline. And I will also as well give you a big shout out, because it's partly you and the conversations that we had back in, I think it was like late April, maybe early March, around a film that you was trying to see if we could get to share. And it wasn't just around the film, which I thought was also as well really deep. It was just your passion about trying to help someone and help share their creativity. So part of the reason why I did this was partly because of you, Caroline. So just want to give you your props and give you a big shout out for inspiring me to try to get this done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You're so welcome.
No, honestly, and as you're saying, you've been a supporter of Fame, and you've been a support from me from the minute that we started talking. So I have to pay that back, and I have to pay that forward to you. So, and for you sharing your history with so many people as well. As I said, I can't thank you enough for that, because it's a personal story for you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't realize how the time is going so quickly. So I do apologize. I am meant to be a good moderator today. So my next question is coming from Stephen Taint. So Stephen, if that's all right, I hand over to you.
Hi, Gbenga. Thank you for that. Gbenga, well done. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that. I do feel like I've been robbed of these stories, not having more inclusion when I was doing history. What advancement have you seen in the awareness of Black history over the recent years in, I suppose, British history? And also, what ways do you think it can be improved, that awareness, going forward?
Thanks, Steve, for that question. In terms of Black history, I think over the years, from reading from the papers, obviously, I went to university here, but I know that there's been a lot of complaints that Black history is not being taught in school. I believe there might be some improvements, but I believe that there is a lot of work that needs to be done in order for people to know. Because like this film's shown, Black history, you know, it's not about white and black, it's everyone's history. And people are being robbed, not just Black people, or obviously Black people, but the invisible Black people as well. You know, they're being robbed of their history. I think this year has been a great year for Black history and for Black movement and consciousness around the world. And unfortunately, that came about because of the death of George Floyd, which sparked the global protest, the Black Lives Movement protest. And I think a lot of people have been able to learn more about Black history as a result of that horrific killing of George Floyd on the streets of America. But I do feel like the momentum should not stop now. I feel like every one of us have got a duty to keep finding out and keep talking to people who are obviously not the same way like us, because what tends to happen is when you're in a bubble of people who are just like you, you could be in like an echo chamber and everyone's saying something and you just sort of regurgitating what people like you. But it's good to reach out and find out more, because you never know, you might be uncovering stories, your own stories, that may not be apparent at first, but may give you a sense of where you're coming from. And like my father used to say, a river that forgets its origin will soon dry up. So I feel like everyone, it's our duty, it's everyone's duty to keep finding out and to keep teaching the children in order to have a more inclusive and a more egalitarian society.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that question. So there's a couple of other questions coming, and I will go to those in a minute. So I noticed that there's a few people in the chat who are quite surprised about the term invisible Black, and it would be quite interesting where you got that term from. So I've always known about people who weren't aware, sometimes who weren't blatantly aware of their ancestry. And for anyone who is a lover of old black and white movies, I would encourage you to go and watch Imitation of Life. But for me, Gbenga, where did you hear of that term? Did you create it, or where did it come from when you named the film?
So I actually created that term. I've done Google search. I don't think I've ever come across any other anyone using that term, invisible Black. And for me, invisible Black, it's a two-strated term. So one, it refers to the Black Georgians, because I was quite shocked to find out that there were 15 to 20,000 Black people living mostly in London in the 1700s. And, you know, that was a really big thing for me. And most of them worked, some people even worked as shopkeepers, musicians, servants, but because their stories were not really being told in a way, they're invisible in history. And also Invisible Black is also about their descendants, people like Caroline, who though have Black DNA, but because they do not appear, you know, physically as being Black, you know, and their stories are not being told, and you know, and there are millions, literally millions of people like Caroline out there whose stories are not really being told. And maybe even some people would rather, you know, not want that story to be told as well, because it's easier to sort of hide under, because, you know, it's like the one drop rule, isn't it? You know, once people know that, you know, you're related, some people might feel threatened by that. So Invisible Black refers to the Black Georgians and to also the white descendants of the Black Georgians whose stories are invisible in history, if you like.
Gbenga, thank you very much for that explanation. I would suggest you try and trademark it as soon as, yeah. Anyway, we're going to keep going. I see that Anita has her hand up. Anita Williams, if you are ready, please ask Gbenga your question.
Thanks, Justin. Hiya, Gbenga. I suppose my question is, how did you condense it enough? I've been getting more and more. I'm very passionate about history anyway, and I've watched several interesting programs, for example, African Great Civilizations on BBC4, which absolutely opens your eyes to how sophisticated and advanced African nations were, when the perception is that, you know, they were just savages who were brought over as slaves and we educated them, our wonderful white people. So I've been becoming more and more aware of different things, and aware of how many influential Black people that has been in our history. How did you condense it down to actually very well, but a condensed short film, I suppose, is my question.
Thank you, Anita. So the remit, because this film was actually like I said before, part of my master's course. And, you know, I had a time limit in which to be able to tell a very meaningful story that people could understand. So I had to, the film could have been an hour-long film, but I had to take some of the most important parts of the story that I was trying to put across to the audience, and just sort of bring it all together. And I felt that in 2007, there was news about a Beachy Head woman who was found in Beachy Head in East Sussex. And I felt like that was quite interesting, because that's a narrative that we've not really heard about. Black people being here pre-slavery, you know, or colonialism, you know, you heard about slavery and all that, but you didn't really hear anything beyond about 500 to 600 years ago about Black presence in Great Britain or any territories that Britain controlled. So I found that very interesting. So I had to tell that story and then move it on to people that I found around me. And I found quite a lot of white people, or apparently or invisible Black people, if you like. And I feel like that's a very important story, because there were things that you didn't really hear about, and I just had to find a way, you know, to be able to tell the story very quickly and within 7 minutes. So I hope I've been able to do a good job of that.
Actually, that really added to me understanding. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. If that's all right, before I go on to the next question, Gbenga, I'd just like to ask this question around for people who are being creative. So I think for me, if that's all right, one of the questions I'd like to raise is, so what do you love about directing? And what sort of advice can you give to people wanting to either get into filmmaking or who want to be a bit more creative while still sort of being, I'm not going to say confined, that's probably too strong a word, but for civil servants who at the moment, their days are really stretched. As you know, we're all working while at home. We're probably doing longer hours than we ever have before. And maybe some of us are missing out on, you know, that creative gene. So have you got any advice that you can share with the audience?
So I think what I love about being creative is the fact that you can tell a story from your own unique point of view, because everyone sees things differently and everyone's got an angle. And most of the time what happens is you have the mainstream which has its own agenda to sort of sell to the people, telling this story, and they've got the means, the money and everything to be able to do that. And also you have the other side of the story. So I feel like it's important to always have a balanced story and not just have the stories from one angle. The other thing is, I think we're living in one of the greatest time in terms of creating content, because one, the technology to create, to use to create those contents are a lot cheaper at the moment. And also there is so much resources in terms of knowledge-based resources online on YouTube. So anybody can pretty much go on YouTube and learn how to use a camera, how to light a film set, how to tell a story, how to write a documentary, and things. So it's a lot more accessible at the moment. And there's the democratization of, even putting out your content. So if you're savvy enough, you might be able to create your own, your own creative business using vlogging or blogging or, all kinds of social media to be able to get an audience and possibly even live off what you're doing as a creative entrepreneur. So I think for civil servants, if you're interested in telling a story, I think, all you can do is just to, it takes discipline, it takes dedication, it takes a lot of commitment to be able to do it alongside doing your work. But like anything, if you don't give the time, that you wouldn't read. But if you give the time and take the time to start writing down your ideas and maybe start with smaller projects and just put them out, do them. The more you do them, the better you get at them. Thank you.
Thank you, Gbenga. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to go back for people who have raised their hands, and I see that there is a question once my screen gets back. Thank you. Jan Eubanks, if you'd like to raise your question, please.
Hi there, Gbenga, and thank you for the facilitator, Justin. I wanted to ask a question that sometimes in trying to promote a dialogue about the presence of Black people in Britain, there are some people of different cultures, races that will embrace that, and there are others that are very resistant to hear the factual truths about that. So how would you encourage a more holistic way of encouraging a wider audience to, one, accept the truth and also to enter into a positive dialogue?
Okay, so I'm a filmmaker, and I suppose everyone's got a role to play, and I suppose there will be people who have the skills, maybe as social scientists or psychologists, to delve into the psyche of people and the way people reason. My job as a filmmaker is to find facts and tell a story. And in a sense, my audience is not really everybody, but anybody who is interested to understand and find out the truth. There might be people who would rather be like an ostrich and put their heads in the sand, and that's fine, because everybody comes to their own at different times. So I suppose what we can all do is to try and find a way to gain allies within different communities. Our work, and that's what I'm trying to do. And in a sense, I feel like Invisible Black has been able to tell the story in a way that a lot of people understand, because it doesn't ostracize or try and paint one set of people against the other set of people. It's more inclusive, and it's a lot more lighter, and it's a lot more easy for people to relate with. And I think maybe that's something that we need to do more to make it a bit more lighter in a way that people can empathize. Because if people will know that, wow, this is actually not just about Black people, it's actually about me, then in a way they would be more keen to relate with the stories, because a lot of people are shying away from these stories because they feel like, oh, it's not really about me. And people just don't see what they don't see. Like I said, everyone's got an angle, and if we're able to tell these stories in a way that people can understand, then I think we'll be doing a much more progressive work in sharing these stories and making forging better relationships between different communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So thank you very much, Jan. I've got a sneaky suspicion that someone is sharing their screen. Gbenga, is that you?
No, it's not. It's not me. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Hopefully that person will move that. Anyway, so we're going to keep it going. I'm looking at the hands coming up, and I think someone's just no. Erica Rowe, if you'd like to ask your questions.
Sorry, no question for me.
Okay. As they say, it was a legacy hand. All right. So, Gbenga, we've just under 7 minutes still to go. I'm going to ask you a question. I know we've spoken quite a bit about your motivation to do film, the film that, of course, Invisible Black, which I believe so many people have found it as inspiring as I did when I first watched it. What about your role in CLJ as a civil servant? Do you feel that, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a balance between, you know, your true calling as a creative filmmaker and also as well, you know, the work that you do as a civil servant?
I feel like every place or everywhere I find myself has had an impact on who I am and who I wish to be. And I feel like being within the civil service, particularly within MHCLG, has provided me and is providing me with opportunities to learn even more about how things work, you know, especially in the public, in the corporate society, and in a sense, probably even giving me more like a different perspective of how to maybe tell better stories and how to reach out and how to understand how people who make policies and you know, in the governmental level, how they work. And in a sense, I feel like it's a big opportunity for me. And I'm sure that, you know, and like Anita is one of my top managers, and the amount of support that I've gained from MHCLG and the people that I work with is just unbelievable. And the way I've been accepted and I've been encouraged is just unbelievable. And I'm even, you know, there are moves to start utilizing some of my creative skills within the department, which is quite exciting. And I believe every step of the way is an opportunity. So I just take every day, you know, as it comes and try and do the best I can with it.
Thank you very much for that, Gbenga. And as you mentioned that about having the opportunity to also as well share some of your creative role within your work role, I would also as well like to give a big shout out to Rob Addy, who is in the chat somewhere. He is one of the people who helped film a number of great race videos that we've been sharing within Bays, but also as well, he shares knowledge and he's so helpful with regards to helping us in Fame understand how we can translate words into video, how we can translate words into words that are much more impactful. So just want to give Rob a shout out. So Gbenga, we've got 4 minutes left. There's a number of people already have been really impacted, and I think have totally got what you've tried to do in less than 7 minutes, which I think is amazing. Give me 1 minute. Someone's just put their hand for a question. Sorry, Gbenga, if you could just keep your mic on mute for me for a minute. Thank you. Michael, you've just put your hand up. Would you like to ask a question quickly, please?
Yes. Hi, Gbenga. This is Michael here. I've just got a question for you. As a filmmaker, which you have a responsibility to educate, how are you looking to reach out to the younger generations, for example, for them to be able to understand and appreciate the culture and also the history of the people that have come before them? So when we talk about this in public, they can actually stand up proud and be able to say, yes, this is my history, this is my culture, and this is what I'm doing. And by the way, we went to school together.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. Michael and I went to secondary school together in the north of Nigeria. That's a fantastic question. So, like I said, my this whole journey started from when I was 10 years old. And one of the things that I've done is to create the Manchester Film Jam, which helps to bring people together, people who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to have first-hand experience working in film, and help them to be able to gain that knowledge. And last year, I started a group in Nigeria, which is the Lagos Film Jam, which also would give opportunities to young people in Lagos, Nigeria, where I'm originally from. And thankfully, I don't have to pay for the space, because I was left some things over there and resources there by my late father, which is helping to do that. And it is my hope that I will be able to continue to progress with that, and teaching people and giving them the skills to be able to tell stories, because a lot of people do not know their history. It's unbelievable. We hear about lack of knowledge of Black history in the United Kingdom, but it's also the same across the world. Even in Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians don't know about their own history, and because it's not really taught, and I don't know why, but I feel like it's part of my job to be able to give people the tools, which hopefully they will be able to pass on to other people. And everyone just has to do their own bits, and I'm trying to do mine in the best way that I can.
So, Michael, thank you very much for that question, and also as well for your response, Gbenga. I believe you're right. I think for us as civil servants, we should do as much as we can externally, whether it's outreach, whether it's trying to help others. And I just love the passion that you do and the work that you're doing, not only in the UK, but also as well back home in Nigeria. So a bit of a prompt to anyone else who's listening: if you're interested in doing some outreach work, please get in contact with the school outreach program. We do some great work with going out to schools within London. Sorry, Gbenga, if you could just put your mic on mute for me again, please. So we do some great work with schools in London, where we've got we speak to students who either English is a second language, or where they have a high proportion of BAME or social mobility children in the area. And we just teach them about, the benefits of becoming a civil servant. We help them with things such as CVs, interviews. There's a number of things. So if there's any civil servant who's listening who would like to do a bit more with outreach, please get in contact either with the school outreach program or get in contact with me directly. Okay, we've got one more question, Gbenga. So if you could please bear with us. Solomon, if you're on. And just to let everyone know, this will be the last question. I do apologize, but we are going slightly over time. So Solomon, I hand over to you. Solomon, one more chance to ask your question. If not, we're going to have to move on. Okay, then.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
Hi, Solomon.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can all hear you.
All right,
if you could just raise your question.
All right, yeah, no, not a question. I was just gonna say, I know Gbenga very well, so it's been really good seeing the presentation. I've not seen this film that is done, not yet, so it's really good. It was actually working on a project with us, on a project called Black History in Stockport. I'm not sure whether you got a chance to talk about that. So yes, it's been really good knowing Gbenga. He's a great video filmmaker, videographer. Yeah, amazing work. Yeah, just came in just to say what amazing person it is. That's it. Not really a question.
Okay, Solomon, thank you. And it's really good to see your happy, smiling face. You're looking well. I hope you're surviving down in Stockport. What is it? Is it tier 3?
No, not yet. Still tier 2.
Yet.
Yeah, not
okay,
yet. Hopefully
cool.
not.
Well, yeah, exactly. So hold it down. Stay safe, brother. All right. I don't want to be the last one to talk. So Gbenga, I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay, sir. Let the audience know if they should follow you on any social media, if you've got any takeaways that you want us to do, or if not, I can end it on your behalf.
Thanks very much. Well, I suppose all I can say is if you can follow Manchester Film Jam on Facebook, we would be posting more information about some of the other things that I do as a filmmaker there. And I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to come here and share to all you wonderful people. And thank you for taking our time from your very busy schedule to come and watch and listen to us talk about Black history. It's wonderful being here, and thank you very much, Justin, for the opportunity, and thank you very much for the encouragement. It's just been wonderful. I was very nervous. I didn't know how I was going to do this, but I hope that people are able to take one or two things away from this. Thank you.
Gbenga, thank you very much. We did have that conversation about you feeling nervous, and I said quite clearly, I've got you. I knew you could do it. I think, as they say, you literally smashed it. And I'm hoping that, as we're saying, that people will follow you. They will continue to help share your work and keep speaking your name. And like Solomon, it's been a pleasure just getting to know you. It's a shame we couldn't meet in the real world and we've had to meet in the virtual world. And we will continue to communicate, I hope. And just now, if that's okay, I know we've slightly gone over time, but for the 83 plus people who are still here, if you could just kindly take yourselves off mute and give the one and only Gbenga a big round of and hopefully one day when we're able to, be back out properly, we will be able to see your work in a cinema and help support that industry. To each and every one of you, please stay safe, keep talking, and please keep supporting Fame. Take care, everyone. Gbenga will catch up.
Thank you, Justin. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gbenga.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So Gbenga, how's the rest of your day looking? Have you got
Yes. Yeah, I've just got defrayed some work to do. Yeah. Yeah, but it's very well. It's okay.
Good.
How's your day?
Well, it's busy. I'm already late for a couple of meetings, but it's okay. And then I've got to prep for another presentation.
Yeah.
But look, if that's okay, we should definitely catch up next week.
Yeah.
We've still got more films to share, and I'm hoping, if that's okay with your permission, we can put those up on our LinkedIn page. But we'll speak.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Listen, have a good day. Yeah.
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much. Cheers, and you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.